And in keeping with our theme of an undisclosed location, well, there's Hanok Young. Where is he? Here maybe we could start a new game. Where in the world is Hanok Young?
Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Yeah, I guess we could do that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
hey,
Except
Mike,
for
how are
it's a
you?
little bit easier to figure out when you have Facebook and you're following, the little post of where you are. So, uh, you know,
Yeah,
not to give it away, but live from Gloucester, Virginia. Here is Hanok, and you'll be with Barry and Laura Phillips tonight, speaking at House of David. That's
correct.
always a fun time. That's one of my favorite places to go.
Yes, and I will be here until 3:30 tomorrow morning when I head to the airport to go to fly somewhere and then to fly to Cleveland. I don't know. I'm a little confused. Maybe I go back to Atlanta to fly. I don't know.
You never
Um,
know.
and as I continue to be overtired, my voice is kind of getting froggy. So I think by the time I get to Kentucky for Shabbat, I'll kind of be like in Barry White mode. Doom, doom, doom. You got it together, baby. Doom, 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 doom. But anyway, while we're in a singing mood, do, 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 do. You say it's your birthday. We've got a birthday coming up. A very special person, one of my favorites, Catesby Clayton.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
she's gonna be a birthday girl. Happy birthday to you. So I hope it's a great birthday. I hope it's a year filled with brachot, with blessings. And Catesby, it was good seeing you. Please take care of yourself and enjoy.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. All right. So yeah, she turns a year older, and I won't let her live that down. So, hello. So we had a great time here. Enjoyed driving all over the place. The 1,000 miles that I put on back and forth from Columbia and
Back and
Greenville
forth, back
Airport.
and forth.
Um,
Yeah,
I pretty well got that ride from here to Westminster down. I think I've got it memorized. So, but
yeah.
great having you here. It was a
Thank you, Mike.
blessing. Had a lot of good conversation. So, what is happening outside of your travel? What's happening in the world today, especially since it's the Israel update? We might want to talk about that.
Yeah, what's really interesting is every once in a while, a phrase, whether from the Tanakh or whether from the Christian scriptures, kind of pops into my head as I'm reading and analyzing the news. And this would have to be the classic wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah.
And not just Israel, but this kind of bizarre dance going on the Ukraine-Russia border, and the NATO countries, Europe saying, if Russia invades, they'll do this, and America saying something like, well, if Russia invades, we're going to slap on some really serious sanctions. Then, you pick up a news story about, China, doing their thing. Iran, of course, is funding all of these terrorist groups around the world. United Arab Emirates was hit by, a strike the other day.
Hmm.
What's going on? And of course, now on our northern border, you have Russian and Syrian jets flying patrols together. And people saying, will that hamper the Israel Air Force ability to respond to terrorist situations, Iranian weapons, etc., going into Syria? And I'm thinking, duh, how silly can you be? So where is this all going? Is it connected? Is it a series of odd events? And I keep coming back to one of the points that I'm making in my presentations. referring to the world we're living in as the era of distraction.
Mhm.
There's so much that can cause you to literally freeze up.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do we do? Sorry, when I'm drinking hot tea, that's when my throat is, just not going great. This is the time that we kind of need to double down.
Mhm.
This is the time when you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what does this mean for me? And as we're reading the Parshiot of Shmot, of Exodus, this would be a wonderful time to say, am I really part of that generation? Am I really part of all this whole covenantal thing going on? And if so, what is it that I need to be doing?
Mhm. Well, I find it interesting, that this parasha is an intriguing one in many ways, and it begins with if you purchase a Hebrew slave, and so of course this makes people's heads explode about the word slave, really missing the whole point. It's about a person that's brought into the house. Um, well, we could say through circumstances maybe beyond their control. But what they find when they're in the house is a place that they never want to leave. And so they're willing to give up everything of their life in order to stay in that house. So maybe this is the separation point of those who have kind of been coerced through religious observance, or through mommy and daddy told me to, or whatever it may be, and those who say, this is a house I really want to be in. It's again, as we've talked about so many times, the sifting that we're going through. So yes, this distraction, yeah, but it's a major distraction. You wake up in the morning wondering if if instead of the president of the United States calling one of the reporters a name, which was, I think, that Ducey. Yeah, put it this way: if I was him, I would not have handled it that way. Okay, I'd have called the guy out, but because it was just over the top what he did, and to never apologize. But that's another issue. That's a distraction. You wonder if you're going to wake up to an article like that, or World War III has begun, and that's really where we're at today.
It's the, I can only think back to my young childhood in elementary school when we used to do these shelter drills because we knew the Soviets were going to bomb, New York at any time. Now it's funny, so much of the rest of America wants to bomb New York at any given time. But the thing that gets me is, of course, as a kid, you can't really fully internalize those kind of fears. You talk about, a nuclear bomb, like, something bad is going to happen. Like being caught in a water balloon fight and you've no water balloons to throw back. I don't know, something like that. But we can only do what we can do. Our children need to be educated. Our families, our elderly, our sick need to be cared for. We have responsibilities. We can't sit and pull the old classic Chicken Little approach. The sky is falling, the sky is falling. Oh, we're going to run out of toilet paper. Seriously, I don't think America is going to run out of toilet paper to 2050. But everyone is like, toilet paper. It's people focus on these insane little details, when in reality, we're the ones missing the big picture.
Yeah. Something we talked about it. We kind of went through a lot of things in our travels. You put the two of us in a vehicle riding down the road for a long time, and you're going to have some interesting conversations, no doubt about that. And it came down to me to three basic things. What do we do? How do we react in this life that we have today? Here's the three things. You want a formula for life? Okay, pen and paper. Here we go. Number one, strengthen your own walk with Hashem. Wow, that sounds just way too simple. It is. It is. I mean, that's maybe the most simple, complicated thing that we ever do in life, is strengthening our own walk with Him. Number two, strengthen your local congregation. And number three, out of the strength of that local congregation comes an ability and a willingness to bless Israel, to walk toward our destination. But here's the thing. We can talk about our destination all day. You can talk about the end of I'm going to do this hike and it's going to be, 30 miles or something like that. If you don't have the ability to get out of your chair, you're probably not going to make it to the destination.
No.
So
no, it's very true.
Yeah, very, very simple. Strengthening our own walk, our own relationship, securing that as best we can, through our study, through our prayer, through all of these different things. And then that strengthening of our local congregation. It's very difficult. You're there with Barry Phillips. It's very difficult for House of David to be a blessing to Israel if they're trying to figure out how to keep the lights on every week.
It's funny. It's funny that you focused on these points. It's almost like a incredibly brief and gentle summary of part of my talks that I'm giving. And a couple of people have asked me, like, where did I get this idea coming from me about local congregations? It's something that I've never spoken about, but it's interesting because we've tried on the international level, Congress of B'nai Yosef, Barry, and so many of our other close friends have tried for years with B'nai Yosef North America, pushing the sort of macro approach. And after a while, you start to feel like the Greek myth of Sisyphus, where you're doomed to lift that big boulder to the top of the hill, only to have it fall back down and do it all over again the next day.
Yeah.
So it hit me to look at the micro. Now, what's the micro? The micro is individual, families, congregations. And when you think of it, a congregation, in my opinion, is an extension of the family. Your individuality should be an extension of your family, which is an extension of the congregation. Hopefully, in the ideal world, these are all working together. These are all pulling in the same direction, and you're both giving and receiving at the same time from this unit that's larger than yourself. And the seeds for change worldwide begin on that small and that local a level, from at times your own living room to the building or meeting room that your congregation is in, and then you take it from there.
You said the giving and receiving, and I think
Yes.
maybe that's a missing link. That
People have accused me of being the missing link for a long time.
That's another
That's
subject.
another story.
The giving and receiving. I think that the vast majority of people go to a congregation with an idea of what they receive. So when, if I just have that attitude that all I'm doing is showing up to receive something, and my week's been a little tough, I don't feel real good, I'm tired, it's all about me. And so, well, I just don't really feel like putting the energy out to go and to receive, so I'm just going to stay home. Not understanding that maybe you had something, that the Father had something that he had planned for you to give that week.
It's a great point.
Because you decided to stay home, there was a void in the service, in the congregation. There was a void there. Well, you just don't know me, and I'm insignificant. Let me tell you, if you've been brought into this walk, you're not insignificant. You're not insignificant. And so every time, to quote Rav Shaul, he says in Corinthians, whenever you come together, you each have a song, a hymn, a spiritual song. You have something to give. And the tragedy is showing up with something to give, but never giving it. Because in doing so, that's withholding from everyone else.
That's an interesting thought, and I was asked in another context, actually a few times this trip already, will your talks be live streamed? Now, when I was at Out of Ashes Ministries, we had a special thing going, 4 separate talks, but in general, is it going to be live streamed? Now, I understand, even though 20 presentations around the country to me seems like an awful lot, and I'm already falling apart at the seams, and we're not even in week 3. But for so many people, and this is where it affects the congregations, live streaming is both a blessing and a curse simultaneously.
Correct.
For most groups, because way too often it's a lot easier to sit in your lined slippers and your fluffy pajamas, or in my case, your Avenger pajamas, and sit in a sweatshirt in your living room, with your cup of coffee or tea, and watching the service. But that, and I just realized as I said it, that's all you're doing. You're watching, you're a spectator, you're not a participant. Now, if you're like our dear friend Priscilla Reed and her up in Justin Trudeau's winter wonderland, she can't easily get to where we are.
Yeah.
So I get that. So what I've said, for instance, in my case, is at the very end of my trip, I will post online a complete recorded version of at least my Israel talk. And someone in a group where I spoke wrote, that's a long time to wait for some inspiration, to wait till the end of February. And of course, that's the classic response from my end of, excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the dog and pony show, and this is not about me. Your congregation isn't there to entertain you. It's not like I'm going to go and get my injection of spiritual fulfillment from our service today. We're both talking about this concept of giving and receiving, of being a participant. In the same way, when you think about it, to be a participant in the redemptive process. When we both encourage people to support Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria and support specific groups in Israel, by the way, groups that actually help people, not groups that line their personal pockets of like, pay me a salary, you know, that kind of thing. But it's a sense of, I'm participating. I can't be there pruning the vines in the vineyards, but I'm going to make a little sacrifice at my end and send something financially to enable that partnership. And that's the same way with people and their specific local congregations.
Yeah.
You have to partner. You have to partner. You know, like, I'm a member or I attend. No, I'm a, you know, ani chaver. I'm a member. I'm a member. And membership.
It
has its
goes
privileges.
to a mutual friend of ours, B.B. Stevens, once said to me that our services should not be a spectator sport. They should be full contact.
I agree.
How you know, what a statement. What a statement that is. You know, we're in a time right now of, I guess there's some football teams playing for some game that they're going to play later on in the year. I'm not a, I don't even know who it is that is the last four teams. Okay. But I was around a group of people that are, they're so overcome with this, that their whole conversation was about, you know, about these teams, that just the ones that won, the ones that lost. I'll guarantee you that there's not a single person on any of those teams that were sitting around yesterday talking about anyone from Franklin, North Carolina. You know, make sure that what you're giving your life to is worth giving your life to.
People don't think that way, though.
No.
And this is, and again, we go back to the children of Israel in the desert. And it's, you know, with the accusations to Moshe, to Moses, why did you bring us out here to die? Not, okay, this is the situation. What should we do? How should we respond? How should we act? It's kind of like, it's a bit of the blame game. And particularly the leader gets the blame of, why did you, we had a great, we were slaves, but we had garlic links, man. Garlic and leeks. Woohoo! Wow, this is great. We could put it on our pizzas. Garlic and leeks. This is great.
Yeah, it just dawned on me. We're in the Torah. We're in Shemot. In any of the areas that we're talking about the Hebrews coming out of Egypt, where is the statement of anyone coming to Moshe outside of maybe Joshua and Caleb and saying, hey, by the way, how can we help you in this venture?
You know, it's interesting. You were there in Colombia at Gates to Zion when I spoke. And when all of a sudden, in the middle of whatever I was talking about, and I switched gears and I said, I want people to approach the leaders of their congregations and ask, what can I do to help? You know, that I pointed to Out of Ashes Ministries, that I don't think it should fall to Pastor Joe Amon to go and vacuum the rugs. You know, I don't think, you know, people need to step, and not everyone is a big contributor financially. And not everyone is talented, you know, as a musician. But everybody can fold a napkin. Oh, yeah. Everybody can take out plastic silverware. Everybody can clean a table and sweep the floor. Trust
You
me, I've even done it.
know, I'm so blessed
Um,
every Shabbat, Hanok, and you saw it this past week
yeah,
when we were there. You know, we said our faith. I did the Aaronic blessing at the end, and everybody kind of, you know, everybody's standing up, and it's like, okay, guys, we've got to put everything together. I don't have to make that statement. I don't have
no,
to say, okay, I need you to do this and you do this. I got, you know, we've got a rug there, which is our nursery in the build. I've got usually 4 kids. They're fighting over who's going to be able to roll up the rug and take it out to my car for me. You know, you watched everybody like worker bees, just stand up, go do something, and the next thing I know, we're walking out the door. Or actually, I'm trying to drag you out the door. But that's another story.
that's totally another story. It's the term kihila, community.
Mhm.
The term synagogue that we use in English is, I believe, of Greek extraction. I
Mhm.
don't really know that because, you know, we don't name the new variants anymore with Greek letters, so I'll never learn the Greek alphabet now. Uh, he said facetiously. But the term in Israel is Beit Knesset.
Yeah.
It's a house of gathering. If we can get to a point where we really think of people with like minds and like hearts gathering, I think we're going to be way ahead of things.
You know, there's a verse I bring up in Psalm Psalm 110, verse 3, and I know that it's a little different in various translations outside of Hebrew, but basically it says this: on the day of your power, your people would become willing volunteers. And people can go, Psalm 110, verse 3, read the whole psalm. On the day of your power, people will become willing volunteers. I find that the greatest way to have people be a part is when they see that there's something they're a part of.
Okay, so when you're talking about, you know, we've thrown around various terms already in the last few minutes: community, being a part of, commitment, you know, that kind of thing. It's being a stakeholder.
Mm-hmm.
It's the term that, you know, David Altman threw out and everyone
Yeah,
runs with, of
yeah,
having skin in the game.
yeah.
It's, what does it mean to me to be involved? Now, everyone can't attend every Shabbat service. It just doesn't happen. You know, life's what happens while you're busy making other plans. Some people, you know, get ill. Things happen. Things happen. That's called life. But if you're not able to attend, there should be part of you that says, wow, I missed my peeps this week.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up a really interesting point, you know, when I mentioned the term, you know, giving and receiving. You may go because you're feeling down emotionally. You're feeling beat up with a particular situation or situations in your life. You're wondering, like, you know, what's the end? When is this dark cloud over my head? When is it gonna lift? But maybe, just maybe, the reason that you have to be there is because you're supposed to give a smile to that person on the other side of the room who looks like everything's coming up roses,
Yeah,
but in reality, they're having their insides ripped out
yeah,
by something that you're totally unaware of.
yeah.
We have to be there for each other, and it reverberates on the familial level, the congregational level, and only then can we be most effective on the Israel and global level.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shocking thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shocking thing. that to think that like the entire redemption of the world depends on my involvement in making sure that the table is clean. So the next person that sits down there, it's like, for instance, for those congregations that borrow or rent space from another entity, let's say hypothetically, like a church, hypothetically, they judge you and the religious community that you're in, as you like to term it, your walk, based on the way they find their facilities the day after you're there.
Yeah.
It reflects upon Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed is He, and the people trying to be most faithful to Him. It's a heavy concept when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It really is.
So much we can do, Hanok. So much we can do
anyway
in in these days that we're in. And it's interesting to me. Some of it comes down to finances. Let me just give you an idea of the people that I was so privileged to pastor years ago in North Florida. Everybody has vacation time. Okay, everybody has a time you're going to be gone. And it was such an incredible blessing that usually on, Friday or something prior to, of course, we were meeting on Sundays, but on Friday, people would come by and say, Pastor, hey, we're going to be out of town this weekend. Just want to let you know, here's our offering. That's when you really know that someone has a grasp that this is not about them. When even though it's like, I don't know how many, I'm not judging people, but I can guarantee you there's going to be people along the way as you're traveling from all over the country that have a little offering there that they're going to give when they're there with you. But since, something came up and I wasn't able to make it, they're going to put that back in their pocket. Because I didn't get anything. Because I didn't get something, I'm not going to give. We need to have people that are not concerned about getting from the kingdom, but giving into the kingdom.
It's for those who think that Netanyahu already accepted a plea deal. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
It's back. It's like ping pong, back and forth, back and forth. And it riles me up. It really does. And, you get this sense of righteous indignation. When will there be justice? When will he? And you know what? And then I slap myself. It shouldn't affect me. Arik Sharon, who had been an incredible general for Israel, a disturbed and miserable politician, lied to Prime Minister Menachem Begin in Lebanon, intentionally misled people, led us to all kinds of issues. And of course, the hitnatkut, the so-called disengagement, the surrender of Gaza and the uprooting of more than 9,000 Jews. Subsequently, he went into a coma and lived in a vegetative state until his death. And there were people who were talking about, well, that's the divine justice. That's what he get. I don't know. Again, I want to be like Judge Dredd, judge, jury, and executioner. That's my job description.
Yeah.
The Punisher. Put me in that. Put me in, coach. Let me take care. But there's another. You can't focus on what you can't have an impact on.
Yeah.
I vote in the Israeli elections. All of them. We get lots of practice. that's what I can do. I speak to people who are willing to listen, and I articulate the points of why I'm voting for party A instead of party B.
Mhm.
And then you move on. You move on because there are still lives that need to be touched. There are still friends that are in the hospital or having surgical procedures that need to be visited. There are still neighbors that need a smile. I mean, like, my ongoing game is holding the door open for Israelis. Had I not done that as a child, my mother would have slapped me.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is just, you run ahead a little bit and you open that door. So Israelis
Interesting.
are used to it. So I'm creating a little, a little revolution of kindness. Me, who would have thought?
Yeah, really. Interesting enough, you're still doing the same thing, running ahead and holding the door open for people to come in.
It,
I'll have to
it's
think about
it's
that one for a while.
it's and it's funny because when I do that here, people say, "You're such a Southern gentleman,"
Hmm.
and then they hear my voice and they're like, "Where are
Hmm.
you from?" I don't know.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know. I was hatched somewhere. I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
another subject for another program. All right, Hanok, we're totally out of time here. So make sure that Laura doesn't mistreat you too bad. And Barry, of course. That's the one you really have to watch a lot.
As long as Cletus doesn't come, we're okay.
The day is still young, and
Be
so are you.
afraid. Be very afraid. Forever young. That's me.
Take care, bro. Be safe.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.